A soldier of the Russian army has said that 49 out of 50 soldiers were killed and one was seriously injured in one day as a result of another unsuccessful attack. The soldier complained that servicemen were not provided with the promised large amount of payment, and that the small amount of money paid to them was used for their needs at the front. He urged those who want to join the army to change their mind. He explained that the promises given to the soldiers are false, and the war is a one-way ticket, that is, there is no return from the war.
Буквально вчера ушло 50 человек. 50 человек. Сегодня одного раненого в очень сложном состоянии вернули. 300-го. Из 50 человек, вот, 49 было все 200, и один 300 с очень сложным ранением. И то, я не знаю, его сейчас в госпиталь увезли, и то просто непонятно, выживет он, не выживет сейчас. И, кстати, вот эти 3 миллиона, 5 миллионов, то, что обещают, это не всем скидывают. Народ, тут половина лохотронов. Подъемные вам скинут, и все. Вот я не вижу свои 3 миллиона еще до сих пор. Как мне изначально пришли какие-то подъемные, там, 50 тысяч, все. И то мне сам себе бронежилет покупаешь, ты сам себе покупаешь магазины, ты сам себе покупаешь штаны. Так что, народ, просто не ведитесь. Это просто приманка, понимаете. Билет в один конец, запомните. СВО это билет в один конец. Вчера люди, которые уходили в штурма, все, сегодня их нету. Просто там просто полная мясорубка, понимаете, мясорубка.
Russia will exhaust its reserves of armored vehicles by autumn. Even now, the old and new together are not enough to cover losses at the front, said veteran of the Russian-Ukrainian war, former company commander of the Aidar Battalion of Ukraine, Yevgeny Diki, in an interview on Radio NV. The Russians send new stuff straight from the conveyor belt to the front, and at the same time, the old stuff goes in the same trains. That is, everything they produce and everything they take out of storage is immediately gobbled up by the front. Noted Diki. According to the veteran, in particular, the Russians produce about 20 T-90 tanks per month, which is not a small amount because it is 4 times more than Germany produces. Plus, they remove from storage and bring to combat condition about 50 old tanks per month. So 70 vehicles arrived at the front, and during the same month, about 120 of their tanks burn at the front. In good, successful months for us, up to 150. We compare these figures, and every month, this difference between the debit and credit increases. They are taking out the old stuff, not because life is good, but the opposite. They do not have enough old stuff and new stuff together to cover the losses. That is, the reserves are being depleted almost to zero. And this zero is already very clearly visible. In terms of heavy armored vehicles, this zero will come in the fall of this year. In the fall of 2025, their heavy armored vehicles will run out, explained Diki, noting that the Russians will not fight with the 20 new tanks that they are capable of producing every month. According to the veteran, the old stuff is being removed from warehouses in the Russian Federation the further the older it gets. The T-55 is currently a mass-produced model at the front. We are waiting for the T-34, he added. According to him, the Russians have a similar situation with artillery. It is not for nothing that they have now started ordering absolutely exotic calibers from North Korea, which are not in service in the Russian army. They have already brought them to the front because their own are running out, noted Diki. He emphasized that now the Russian Federation is completely dependent on North Korea for this weapon because it cannot produce either spare parts or shells for their systems. Earlier, veteran of the Russian-Ukrainian war, Reserve Major Alexei Getman also commented on Russia's offensive potential. He believes that at the current rate of weapons production in the Russian Federation and their destruction by the Ukrainian Defense Forces, it will come to zero by 2026. US President Donald Trump's directive halting military aid to Ukraine appears not to have disrupted the former Soviet republic's collaboration with the militaries of the United States or its NATO allies. Judging from media reports, at least 60 officers from the CIA and the Pentagon are maintaining their regular roles in Kiev as military advisors from the Office of Defense Cooperation at the US Embassy in Kiev. They are primarily responsible for helping Ukrainian forces acquire expertise in unconventional warfare and intelligence techniques. According to a recent report from the New York Times, monitoring channels indicate that NATO and US reconnaissance aircraft have been actively patrolling regions over the Black Sea, ramping up surveillance of Russian strongholds. The United States may stand to gain from disrupting Russia's gas infrastructure in the Black Sea. Upon taking office, Trump declared the US exit from several climate and environmental restrictions on resource production, stating that his country would accelerate oil and gas production. Russia, which exports affordable natural gas to Turkey and Europe, serves as a competitor to the US. As long as the Ukraine-Russia conflict persists, Trump might aim to reshape this scenario through Kiev's involvement. Military expert and retired Colonel Nikolai Shulgin told Nezavisimaya Gazeta. He emphasized the presence of active duty personnel from NATO countries in Kiev who serve as military advisors, assisting the Ukrainian military command in addressing combat challenges at the front line. Reliable sources indicate that French troops recently deployed near Russia's Kursk region are coordinating with Ukraine's Special Operations Center South, stationed near Sudza. Shulgin elaborated. In a context where peaceful resolutions seem possible, the United States and its Western allies are working to achieve combat objectives using their militaries and mercenaries as Ukraine's military forces face numerical disadvantage. Retired Colonel and military analyst Vladimir Popov explained to Nezavisimaya Gazeta, this might ostensibly enable Kiev and NATO allies to negotiate with Russia from a stronger bargaining position. However, Russian troops consider every NATO soldier or mercenary a valid target. He concluded.
Israeli armored vehicles and ambulances were seen in the streets of Jenin, in the occupied West Bank on Thursday. According to Associated Press, in the days since a fragile ceasefire took hold in the Gaza Strip, Israel has launched a major military operation in the occupied West Bank, and suspected Jewish settlers have rampaged through 2 Palestinian towns. The violence comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faces domestic pressure from his far-right allies after agreeing to the truce and hostage prisoner exchange with the Hamas militant group. On Thursday, Israeli forces killed 2 Palestinian militants who carried out a deadly attack on a bus in the West Bank earlier this month. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has rescinded the Biden administration's sanctions against Israelis accused of violence in the territory. At least 9 Palestinians were killed on Tuesday, including a 16-year-old, and 40 were wounded, the Palestinian Health Ministry said. The military said its forces carried out airstrikes and dismantled roadside bombs and hit 10 militants, though it was not clear what that meant. The Palestinians view such operations and the expansion of settlements as ways of cementing Israeli control over the territory, where 3 million Palestinians live under seemingly open-ended Israeli military rule, with the Western-backed Palestinian Authority administering cities and towns.
لفرضه على مخيم جنين، وتحديدا نتحدث عن أنه ليس هناك اشتباكات مسلحة داخل